The Rock versus Roman Reigns not happening at WrestleMania. A major WWE announcement that's, well, it wasn't really that major. And Matt Riddle debuts in New Japan. Bro, I'm Oli Davis and this is the WrestleTalk News.
Support WrestleTalk!
Rock the Dwayne Johnson made his shock return on the January 1st Day 1 special of Monday Night Raw, where he cut a promo on Jinder Mahal that went 7 minutes over time, and it made him appear very out of breath. So far, so rocky. He'll turn up occasionally, make fun of a mid-carder, force some time to be cut from later on in the show, and disappear to not be seen again for several months. But this time was different. He actually said something of possible substance. When talking to the crowd about his dinner plans that evening, he asked whether he should sit in a booth, at the bar, or at the head of the table, which is what Rock's real-life Samoan cousin and current UU champion Roman Reigns calls himself, marking the first explicit time WWE have made a tease that the two would have a match. Dave Meltzer has even revealed that Roman's head of the table and tribal chief names were first come up with years ago, all done originally to build up the Roman Reigns-Rock match. Apparently, the plan to do Rock vs. Reigns was on the table, pun intended, before the pandemic. They were first going to do it at 2022's WrestleMania 38, which Rock turned down in favor of the 2023 WrestleMania in Hollywood. But that fell apart when he, Vince McMahon, and Nick Khan couldn't come up with a significant enough storyline, which never stopped them in the past. So now, after years of trying to make it happen behind the scenes, it seems Rock vs. Roman is finally going to happen at WrestleMania XL. That's great. Well, not for Cody, I guess. Start another story, buddy. But money talks. That's all there is to it. Rock vs. Roman at WrestleMania. Oh, but just one more thing. Maybe it won't happen at WrestleMania. One Twitter account that has gotten things right in the past but had others wrong, so take this with a pinch of salt, is claiming that WWE's plan for Cody Rhodes is still going. This has made speculation and mania run wild that Rock vs. Reigns won't happen at WrestleMania XL. It'll instead happen at February's Elimination Chamber. I admit, the idea of WWE trying to make Rock vs. Roman happen specifically at WrestleMania for several years to then go, actually let's do it on the B show 2 months beforehand, doesn't make much sense. This is likely The Rock's final ever in-ring performance, and both he and WWE will want to do it in the biggest possible way, at WrestleMania. But to play Adam Cole's advocate, this year's isn't your granddad's Elimination Chamber, it's an international premium live event. Topping even last year's terrific chamber event in Montreal, which saw Roman Reigns defeat hometown boy Sami Zayn, Elimination Chamber 2024 is taking place down under in Australia on the 24th of February at the Optus Stadium in Perth, a stadium that has a capacity of 65,000. WrestleMania XL in Philadelphia, for comparison, has almost exactly the same capacity at 67,594. Butts and seats-wise, they're very similar sizes. Elimination Chamber is a WrestleMania XL-sized show. There's also the interesting element that those 65,000 Australian butts aren't actually paying for the event. The city of Perth is. Which is why the official title of the event is Elimination Chamber Perth. Kind of like it's a Fallout series expansion title. Much like all the Saudi shows, Clash at the Castle in Wales, or Backlash in Puerto Rico, it's the local or national governments that are paying WWE very large sums of money to run the shows in their towns. It's a fantastic, largely risk-free business model for WWE. Unless there's mechanical issues on the plane home. But it does make them more accountable to what those bodies paying for the show ask for. The Rock's last surprise return to WWE happened on the 15th of September 2023 on an episode of SmackDown, where he and Pat McAfee buried Austin Theory. It was only the following week, on the 21st, where WWE announced Elimination Chamber would be taking place in Australia. It has since come out, thanks to a Freedom of Information request from the West Australian newspaper, that the Australian Tourist Board asked WWE if it was possible to get Dwayne Johnson for the show. They never said WWE agreed to it. For what it's worth, however, Wrestling Observer Live's Brian Alvarez has pushed back on the rumour, saying, Rock ain't doing Australia, he's doing Mania. But I think there's a way to do it all! You have Rock at Elimination Chamber in Australia. You just don't do Rock versus Roman. Instead, you have the Dwayne wrestle in an easy warm-up match against the tag partner of the man he buried back in September, Austin Theory's mate, Grayson Waller, who just so happens to be Australian. Spot on accent there. Because beating people in their hometown, that's what they want. Rock vs. Roman instead then happens on night 1 of WrestleMania, which Reigns wins. But on the second night, Roman will have to go against the Rumble or Chamber match #1 contender, Cody Rhodes, who will probably still lose in the latest chapter of Cody's never-ending story. How would you book The Rock, Roman and Cody over WrestleMania season? Let me know in the comments, because I'll be replying to people from out of nowhere. But move aside Rock versus Roman, because Triple H has huge, major, very important announcements to make. Money in the Bank is happening in Toronto. What a massive seismic announcement. Well, it's cool, I guess, but you kind of already announced that earlier in the... I said it's a major important announcement! After quite smartly only slightly teasing a former world champion's return for the Day 1 Raw, which massively exceeded expectations with The Rock, Triple H then spent the several days after hyping a major announcement on WWE's Preview Special 2024 show on Peacock, which boiled down to Shinsuke Nakamura and Becky Lynch have declared for the Royal Rumble, and Money in the Bank will be leveling up next week in Winnipeg, thanks to Warner Bros. Discovery to promote Shazam! Fury of the... Oh no, wait a second, that's someone else's huge announcement. Money in the Bank will actually be taking place on July 6th in Toronto's Scotiabank Arena, which is in Canada. Something WWE had already sent out a press release for about 10 hours prior. This is a far cry from what some portions of the internet worked themselves up for. Triple H announcing a working relationship with the relaunched TNA. Watch the video in the description below to find out how exactly that crazy conspiracy theory was come up with and gained so much traction. We all know what Triple H really wanted to say, though. How happy he is that his long-time reported behind-the-scenes nemesis Kevin Dunn is done with WWE. But before I get into that, here's a clip from the new episode of Tables, Lists and Chairs, counting down the worst wrestling entrance music of all time, which comes out this Sunday.
3, 2, 1. Yeah! There it is. You know, when I have a lovely meal and I don't fancy a sweet dessert, I go into Brie mode.
You can watch that episode in all its pre-mode glory right now with early access on our Patreon page, along with loads more exclusive content like Survival Series and WrestleTalk Extra at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Kevin Dunn was WWE's long-running head of production, the guy responsible for all the crash zooms. At times, he's been the most powerful person in WWE after Vince McMahon. But following the Endeavor deal, Dunn's departure was revealed at the end of 2023. Brian Alvarez has described the backstage reaction in WWE to Dunn leaving. The guy didn't have a stellar reputation, I gotta say. A lot of people are happy he's gone, kind of like a lot of people who were happy that Vince was gone. It's almost like two peas in a pod. Alvarez continued, saying people like working under Triple H significantly more than they did under the previous Vince Dunn regime. One person told Alvarez that they've never seen Triple H blow his stack over anything. Like, not one time ever have I seen him totally flip out. Vince, he could be a complete maniac sometimes, they said. Not one time have I ever seen Triple H have a blow-up. Much easier work environment with old Vince and Kevin Dunn gone, so it's a new 2024. The leading name supposedly set to replace Dunn is someone called Marty Miller, who Alvarez admits he didn't recognize, probably because it sounds like an early 2010s developmental wrestler in NXT. But Triple H's big non-announcement wasn't the only major thing to take place on January 4th, 2024. It also saw New Japan's biggest show of the year. Wrestle Kingdom, not to be confused with Undisputed Kingdom saw the former WWE star Dolph Ziggler show up in the crowd with his real, more awesome name, Nick Nemeth. Accompanied by his real-life brother and AEW wrestler Ryan Nemeth, they watched the heavyweight tag title match, hinting they'll go after those belts as a family, and also the Global Championship match between Will Ospreay, Jon Moxley, and David Finlay. Finlay was the winner, mostly because he's the only guy still actually contracted to New Japan, and he immediately started a feud with Ziggler in the crowd, having a pull-apart brawl. Tama Tonga announced he will be leaving New Japan by the end of the month. Despite just winning the Never Openweight Championship on the show, he cited wanting to spend more time with his family, which I'll just put through my Pro Wrestler translation app here. He's number 14 in the Royal Rumble. And Jon Moxley, after losing the Global Championship 3-way, had the following to say about New Japan titles. I've got to explain why I just came up short in an opportunity for the Global Championship. Is that what this one's called? There's like 32 titles. Midwestern, Continental, Global, Interglobal, Mitsubishi, Ford. I don't know what the f***'s going on. He could also be talking about his own AEW. I'm hoping for Moxley versus Ospreay at AEW Revolution now, but the biggest news arguably happened the day after. January 5th's New Year's Dash show is typically when New Japan sets up their biggest stories for the year to come. During the event, a vignette played of former WWE star Matt Riddle training, stepping out a sports car in diamante-encrusted flip-flops, and challenging the New Japan TV champion Hiroshi Tanahashi, saying he'll see him soon. Bro. Go to patreon.com/WrestleTalk to watch the new tables, lists, and shares right now. Find out about that crazy WWE TNA theory by clicking the video on the left. A crazy WWE TNA theory, a big debut at New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom, and my review of AEW Dynamite. I'm Oli Davis, and this is the WrestleTalk News.